Year-old army cadet is admitted to hospital with cough, headache and malaise. He has a temperature of 38 degrees Celsius and his liver and renal are normal function. Cold agglutination are positive. Chest X-ray show bibasal shadowing, my dear friends. What is the most likely diagnosis? So here we have 5 options. Let's discuss it one by one. So Klebsiella, the first choice Klebsiella pneumonia is incorrect. Klebsiella pneumonia is typically seen in patients with immunocompromise and poor nutritional status, such as patient with alcohol dependence. So that's gonna be incorrect, my dear friends. The next option, Legionella pneumonia. Legionella pneumonia is also incorrect. Why? Because cold agglutination are not associated with Legionella pneumonia. So that's gonna be also incorrect. So the next choice we have Mycoplasma pneumonia. Mycoplasma pneumonia is a common cause of pneumonia, often occurring in young people. It is characterized by headache, malaise, cough. The chest X-ray finding might not be correlate with the patient condition. The white blood count can be normal and cold agglutination occur in only half of patient. So that's the right choice. Let's move further. Second question we have, you are examining peak flow result from a range of individual presenting to respiratory clinic with shortness of breath. When examining peak expiratory flow rate, result which of the true statement? So the first choice PEFR is useful marker with respect to restrictive lungs disease. Another, PEFR is never affected by reduced effort. Option C, PEFR is predict mortality in COPD. PEFR primarily reflects small airway flow. Using PEFR to change therapy is superior to symptoms based on the care. So the correct choice is C. Why? Because where the chronic obstructive pulmonary disease is concerned, PEFR predict mortality in COPD, with the fall off in PEFR being significantly slow in patients who successfully achieve smoking cessation. So that's the reason behind this option Y is correct. Okay, let's move third question. 33-year-old woman with cystic fibrosis died. While awaiting a lungs transplant, she undergo a post-mortem examination include a biopsy of respiratory epithelium. Which one of the following cells is likely to be found on the surface of the respiratory epithelium? So here we have 5 choice: basophils, eosinophils, lymphocyte, monocyte, neutrophils. So what gonna be correct choice? So my dear friend, the first choice we have basophils. Basophils infiltration is associated with fatal asthma. So that's gonna be wrong option. Next option we have eosinophils. Eosinophils are associated with allergic lungs disease. So that's gonna be also incorrect. Next choice, lymphocyte. Lymphocyte infiltration is associated with lymphocytic interstitial pneumonia. So that's gonna be also incorrect. Let's move neutrophils. Neutrophils Infiltration is well recognized as a determinant of the progression in cystic fibrosis. Okay, my dear friends. So infiltration occur rarely in the course of the disease, and neutrophils drive factors such as elastase lead to accelerate damage to respiratory epithelium. So that's gonna be right choice, my dear friends. The fourth question we have: 26-year-old female intravenous drugs user present with a productive cough, fever, 2 to 3 days duration. She had flu last week. Other than a leukocytosis, high C reactive proteins level, her blood result are normal. A chest X-ray show bilateral cavitation. My dear, this is very important point. Bilateral cavitation. Which one of the following types of pneumonia is most likely to have? So we have first option, fungal pneumonia. Fungal pneumonia is incorrect. Why? Because although the history of intravenous drug use indicate an increased risk of HIV infection, and therefore fungal infection which can cue cavitation. The typical pattern of fungal pneumonia is nodular consolidation. Okay, so although the fungal pneumonia can be cavitate, the lack of history to suggest this patient has a likely diagnosis of HIV combined with history of flu. So that's gonna be wrong option. The next choice we have Klebsiella pneumonia. Klebsiella pneumonia is incorrect. Why? Because Klebsiella species can be cause cavitation pneumonia, particularly of upper lobes. But history of flu of and intravenous drug use make a difference. So that's gonna be also incorrect. Pneumococcal pneumonia. Pneumococcal pneumonia, the commonest cause of pneumonia general population. So that's gonna be not correlate with intravenous drug use. So the last option, if I talk about Staphylococcus, this is the right choice. Why? In general, Staphylococcus pneumonia follow a viral infection, usually with flu-like symptoms. This type of pneumonia is often seen in intravenous drug abuser. So that's the strongly point history we get our actual question. Okay, and in patient with a central line, it is also common in patient with an underlying disease such as leukemia, lymphoma, cystic fibrosis. X-ray show bilateral cavitation bronchopneumonia, pneumothorax, effusion, and emphysema are common. So intravenous antibiotics should be administration properly. Let's move further. So the five question: 40-year-old man complain of increasing shortness of breath, and his chest X-ray show elevated hemidiaphragm on the left side. No other abnormality are seen. What is the most likely investigation to elucidate the mechanical reason for this shortness of breath? So here we have five choice. The first choice we have CT thorax scan, and the second choice we have echocardiography, and another choice we have electrocardiography, fluoroscopy, MRI. CT thorax of scan computed topography thorax scan is incorrect. Why? Because CT scan will demonstrate an elevated hemidiaphragm, but dynamic imaging is required to show diaphragmatic paralysis, which is the diagnosis here. Okay, so that's gonna be incorrect. The next choice we have echocardiography. Echocardiography breathlessness here is not cardiac in origin. It is due to diaphragmatic paralysis. Therefore, it is incorrect choice. So the right choice we have fluoroscopy. Diagnosis of fluoroscopy unilateral paralysis suggested by asymmetric elevation of the affected hemidiaphragm on the X-ray can be confirmed by fluoroscopy. During a forced respiratory maneuver, sniff test, the unaffected hemidiaphragm descend forcefully, therefore increasing intra-abdominal pressure and pushing the paralysis of hemidiaphragm Sheffield. So fluoroscopy is inaccurate for the diagnosis of bilateral paralysis. So that's the right choice. Let's move further. So the sixth question we have, which one of the following cell type is most important antigen presenting cells during sensitization? Sensitization, my dear friends, the dendritic cell is a key antigen presenting cell. After uptake of antigen, it means it migrates from the site of antigen uptake to regional draining lymph node. My dear friend, this is very important point. Regional draining lymph node where it present process antigen to T cells and stimulate either proliferation of the establishment's memory cells or differentiation of the naive T cells reactive to antigen presented. So that's gonna be dendritic cells, correct choice. Next, an arterial blood sample from a 48-year-old male patient with progressive dyspnea over the past few months has an oxygen tension of 8.5 kPa, normal range 9.3 to 13.3 kPa, and carbon dioxide tension of 8.5 kPa. The normal range is 4.7 to 6.0 kPa. Given these blood gas result, that is most likely diagnosis. Which one option is correct? So the first choice we have ankylosing spondylitis, aspirin, lobar pneumonia, pulmonary embolus, viral pneumonitis. So the right choice we have first option ankylosing spondylitis. Why? Because this is the type 2 respiratory failure. That's why PaCO2 raise due to hypoventilation and this can be occur in actual due to drugs overdose. More chronically with gross obesity and kyphoscoliosis and similar musculoskeletal disorders such as ankylosing spondylitis and end-stage muscle and neurological and airway disorder. So that apical fibrosis can be also occur in ankylosing spondylitis, contribute to respiratory failure. So that's the explanation behind this question. Let's move further. So the 8th question we have, which one of the following condition is most likely to be associated with a decrease DLCO? So the first choice we have acute poliomyelitis, dehydration, exercise, polycythemia, pulmonary embolism. So which one of the option is correct? If I talk about dehydration is incorrect. This will not affect DLCO. So that's gonna be incorrect. When we talk about exercise is also incorrect. This will not increase DLCO. So that's gonna be also incorrect. Exercise. So the next choice, polycythemia. Polycythemia is incorrect because this will not increase DLCO. So polycythemia is also incorrect. So we have left two options. So the first option, acute poliomyelitis. Acute poliomyelitis is also incorrect. Why? Because this will not affect DLCO, my dear friends. So we have left pulmonary embolism. So that's gonna be correct choice. Why? Because DLCO diffusing capacity in the lungs for carbon monoxide is decreased in any condition that's the reduce of the effective alveolar surface area or affect the alveolar membrane, such as include pulmonary embolism, emphysema, in which alveolar surface area is reduced. So this is the right choice. Let's move further. The ninth question we have, 62-year-old housewife present with a history of lethargy associated with shortness of breath. She has never smoked and take no medication. Her chest X-ray show multiple round lesion, increased size, and at the base of bulky hilar lymph node and urine testing level 2 plus hematuria but no protein. This is very important, my dear friend. Hematuria but no protein. What is the most likely diagnosis? So here we have choices, 5 choices. So the first choice we have lungs abscess. If I talk about lungs abscess is incorrect. Why? Because lungs abscesses are rounded lesion but air fluid level would be visible. Therefore, also no infective symptoms described here. So that's gonna be incorrect, my dear friends. Next choice we have pulmonary metastasis. This lady is likely to have a primary renal cell carcinoma with pulmonary metastasis, and multiple metastasis range enormously in size and number and can be recommended by hilar lymphadenopathy or pleural effusion. The most common underlying tumors are breast, my dear friend, breast and colon, renal, lungs primarily, but other tumor that are amenable to chemotherapy can metastasis to the lungs, such as testicular cancer and choriocarcinoma. So that's gonna be diagnosis HU by cytology or histology on various sample from the pleural or lungs, can be occasionally be made from cytology of expected or induced sputum. So that's the right choice, pulmonary metastasis. Okay, my dear friends, let's move further. So the 10th question we have, 33-year-old man is found to have strongly positive aspergillosis precipitin in his blood and complain of the cough with intermittent blood sputum. He has a business working as a builder, particularly involved renovating farmhouse. What is the most likely diagnosis? So here we have five choices. So my dear friend, we have first choice, allergic bronchopulmonary aspergillosis. If I talk about allergic bronchopulmonary aspergillosis is incorrect. Why? Because allergic bronchopulmonary aspergillosis result from a typical type 1 and typical type 3 hypersensitivity reaction to aspergillus. That's why it is associated with positive aspergillus precipitation, raised to total IgE level and raised to specific IgE RAST to aspergillus. It is associated with wheezing, sputum plug, eosinophilia, and fleeting. Chest X-ray infiltrate, but it is not usually associated with hemoptysis. Lack of clinical feature. Along with that, presence of hemoptysis make this diagnosis incorrect choice. So that's gonna be incorrect. Next, Asperger syndrome. Asperger syndrome is also incorrect. Why? Because Asperger syndrome has nothing to do with aspergillus infection, and it is an autistic spectrum disorder. So that's gonna be incorrect, my dear friend. This is also incorrect and this is also incorrect. Let's move further option. So we have chronic pulmonary aspergillosis. So the next choice, my dear friends, we have chronic pulmonary aspergillosis. That's gonna be correct choice, my dear friend. You might be thinking why it is correct. Let me explain it why it is correct. Aspergillosis precipitin IgG antibodies to aspergillus are typically found in chronic pulmonary aspergillosis. That's why it is right choice, my dear friend, which can we include the presence of aspergilloma, the history of potential significant aspergillus exposure, alongside cough and hemoptysis with the presence of raised precipitin to aspergillus make this diagnosis very right choice. So this is the right choice, my dear friend. I hope you understood well. I am explaining step by step all option. So stay tuned. So my dear friend, 11 question. 65-year-old retired man smoke was diagnosed with smear positive Mycobacterium tuberculosis. He used to work stone mason. If in such a patient there is increased occupational risk of getting Mycobacterium tuberculosis infection, which one of the following is most likely cause? So the first choice we have asbestosis, berylliosis, lead poisoning, pneumoconiosis, silicosis. And the right choice we have silicosis. Why? Because stone masons, fettler, slate miner and slate worker are at a risk of developing silicosis. The silica act as a toxin to macrophage, so impairing their function. This result in an increased risk of contracting a Mycobacterium tuberculosis infection. So that's the reason behind this question, and that's gonna be right choice. Let's move further. So the 12th question, 60-year-old patient was referred with a 1-year history of persisting cough productive of mucopurulent sputum throughout a year. He has been treated by Siraj Ali for recurrent chest infection. What is the most likely diagnosis? So my dear friend, the right choice gonna be bronchiectasis. Why? Because if I talk about bronchiectasis, the bronchiectasis should be suspected when there is a history of persistent cough productive or macular or purulent sputum the throughout the year. So that's the clue of this question. And patients have frequently been treated for recurrent chest infection and labeled as bronchitis, often despite the absence of history of smoking. So that's the reason for this right choice. Okay. So here we have 13 question. A young man has been a car accident and he sustained a trauma to his thorax. He has a tear in his main bronchus without any obvious fracture. What is the most likely diagnosis? Choices we have atelectasis, expiratory stridor, pulmonary edema, pulse paradox, and wheezing. So let's find out what is the right choice. So if I talk about first choice, atelectasis. Atelectasis is when part or all of one lungs collapse and preventing normal oxygen absorption, and breath sound are quietened over area of atelectasis. During expiration, normal breath sound repeatedly or rapidly fade out, probably due to the decreasing airflow rate. So that's gonna be right choice. If I talk about causes of atelectasis, it's include obstruction of an air passage by a thick mucus plug formation and infection, other disease like cystic fibrosis and tumor in the ear passage, tumor or blood vessels outside the ear passage causing pressure on the airway, and inhaled objects such as peanuts or small toys, and prolonged chest and abdominal surgery under general anesthesia, and chest injury or fracture of ribs and penetrating wounds. So that's the causes of atelectasis. Okay, let's move further. Next question. So 62-year-old man with a heavy smoking history is referred to the chest clinic after a mass is seen on his chest x-ray. Which one of the following clinical feature might indicate a possibility of curative surgical resection for bronchial carcinoma? So here we have choices. Choice A, FBC less than 1.5, preoperatively hypercalcemia, invasive superior vena cava obstruction, ipsilateral pleural effusion, left recurrent laryngeal nerve palsy. The right choice gonna be hypercalcemia. Why? Because hypercalcemia can be due to bony secondaries or production of parathyroid hormone like peptide by the tumor. If the hypercalcemia is due to parathyroid like peptide production, then the tumor might be operable. Okay, so that's the right choice. Okay, so here we have 60-year-old smoker is being evaluated for a coronary artery bypass graft. Which one of the following best pre-operative screen of the PFT for this patient? Choice A, arterial PCO2, arterial pH, arterial PCO2, oxygen saturation, ratio of the force expiratory volume in 1 second to force vital capacity. Which one of the following statements that's gonna be right choice? So the right choice we have choice E. Why? Because pulmonary function test provide the best pre-operative screen for the patient being assessed for coronary artery bypass graft, because they reflect dynamic measurement of pulmonary function in this patient. The arterial blood gas measurement reflect acid base disorder, but they do not predict pulmonary complication in the post-operative period. So that's the explanation behind this question. It is very simple question, my dear friends, and every single licensing exam asking again and again. So the next question we have 21-year-old medical student present with confusion dyspnea 24 hours after fracturing his left femur in a ski competition. Which one of the following skin lesion would you expect to see on the physical examination? So the choices we have multiple patchy in both axilla and skin fold of the upper body, multiple vesicular region on the upper back, palpable purpura on the buttock only, target lesion on the chest, tender red nodule on the lesion. So which one of the following statement gonna be right? So the right choice we have first option A. Why? Because this is appearance of showing of patchy over the axilla or upper half of the body is characteristic of the fat embolism syndrome. Okay, my dear friend, in which patient with a history of recent traumatic fracture? That's why this question gonna be right choice. Okay, within a few weeks several patients in a geriatric ward contracted a Legionella pneumonia which has been successfully treated with microlide antibiotic. What was the most likely source of those nosocomial infection? Contaminated instrument, contaminated medication boxes, contaminated warm water sources, droplet transmission from the staff, insufficient hand disinfection. So the right choice we have contaminated warm water sources, option C. Why? Because Legionella organism have been found in a small number in water distribution system through which they can colonize man-made habit, right? Again, as a part of the biofilm from which they are shed into the water. The factor that encourage colonization and multiplication are temperature 20 to 45 degree and stagnation. The most common sources in include building in which Legionella organism have been found are such as hot water, storage tank, piped water, and some other like building an industrial complex. Okay, so that's the explanation this question. Okay, let's move. 26-year-old woman noticed shortness of breath and dry cough while jogging last winter. She now wakes up twice a week at 0.400 hours with trouble. Some cough. What is the most likely cause? So here we have choices: asthma, bronchiectasis, cardiac insufficiency, and intrinsic allergic alveolitis, mycoplasma pneumonia. So which statement is best pick up in this question? Asthma. The symptoms of asthma are non-specific, but shortness of breath, wheezing, chest tenderness, and cough. These are the manifestation of airway narrowing, which is usually variable in severity over short of period but can be persistent, and airway hyperresponsiveness, asthma as the cause of these symptoms. So that's why this is right choice. Let's discuss question number 19. Most cases of community acquired pneumonia are caused by which one of the following statement? Option A, Haemophilus influenza. Option B, Mycoplasma pneumoniae. Option C, Staphylococcus aureus. Option D, Streptococcus pneumoniae, viral pneumonia. So the right choice, my dear friends, we have Streptococcus pneumoniae. Streptococcus pneumoniae is more likely cause for community acquired pneumonia when compared to viral pneumonia. So that's the reason behind this question why it is correct. Okay, let's move further. Question we have: which cell type produce surfactant? This is very simple question and every single licensing exam asking again and again. So here we have 5 choices: alveolar microphage, endothelial cells, goblet cells, type 1 pneumocyte, type 2 pneumocyte. The right choice gonna be option E. Why? Because type 2 pneumocyte phospholipid molecule that reduce surface tension in the alveolar air liquid interface are called surfactant. The surfactant is produced in conjunction with protein from alveolar type 2 epithelial cells. So that's the reason why it is correct.